I've been with the WEC method, guys, for upwards of 6 years now. What if we brought all these principles and applied this to pregnant women? We've had almost 400 women in and out of active delivery in less than 10 minutes.
Even first-time laborers?
First-time mothers.
Active labor is shorter for them. That sets them up so much better for those early years of actually starting a family, because how much easier is postpartum training when you weren't in active labor for 6 hours.
Is there a different protocol when they're 35
No,
plus?
not at all. 39 years old with MS, and she was in and out of active delivery in 13 minutes.
Does this process that you have women go through, does it reduce any of the vaginal damage that might happen?
Absolutely. It doesn't matter if you had a child 2 months ago or 20 years ago, you're still a postpartum mother, and you could still potentially make this core a lot stronger than ever.
You guys offended or intimidated by this little guy here? Who? This guy?
I didn't notice that.
What do you mean little?
I love how I love
while you're
how
podcasting.
There you go. I'm looking
Hey
at
now,
you guys.
whoa, that eye contact.
What's up, guys?
That's interesting.
The color is interesting.
I love how much it jiggles.
That's
Wiggles.
mine. That's my color. I have a little bit of dick vitiligo, you know?
That's funny.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, you can get vitiligo just on your dick. You know what vitiligo is?
Nope.
It's the
It's, you got
Where you
some
go,
like
like,
white spots.
patches.
Kinda.
yeah. Well, mine's on my dick.
Wow.
Unfortunate.
Or fortunate. Who knows?
We got to start all over.
Why do we have to start over?
Because I don't want to start that way.
Why can't you
Make
start
it
it
a
that
bigger
way?
dick or a smaller
What
dick?
we're going to be talking about
Do you
later.
think they give a fuck? Why are you going to start it over, man? Just bleep what I said.
No.
Keep the podcast going.
All right.
Why did you
Andrew
do
got
that?
all shy a couple
Jesus
weeks ago.
Christ.
Well, because I'm
We're just trying to have some fun. He's like,
No, we gotta start over.
My family
trying to be professional here.
are we professional?
Yeah, you did like that, by the way.
Why can't your family know that you get blowjobs? I mean,
Like I
Yeah,
said,
don't
it's
edit
just-
this out.
It's just the weird conversation. Like, oh, I haven't seen you guys in so long. It's like, oh, I've been checking out the podcast. So you're getting some BJs, huh? Like,
like, hey, Stephanie.
Y'all have a loving relationship. Is that something not to be happy about?
oh, man. She will listen to this episode
There
too,
we
by
go.
the way.
Hello, Stephanie. We love you.
I would like to just jump right into learn a little bit more about your YouTube channel, because you were all in on YouTube back in the day, one of the early adopters.
Yeah.
And then you bounced on out of there.
Yeah, dipped right out. Yeah, I mean, I started a channel when I was 19. And the
damn.
thing about that, like a lot of people do that nowadays.
How do you know?
I'm 30 now. I'm
Okay.
30. Yeah. So I didn't understand what I was getting into, because back then people weren't trying to be influencers. Like there was someone that worked out with me at the gym I was at. He was like, yo, you got a pretty impressive physique. Why don't you share it online? See what happens. So I just shared, and like I could never have imagined what it would have turned into. Like I wasn't looking to necessarily start my own business. Like I was just open to posting and seeing what happened. And I think just the nature of being early at that time, it made it easy to grow. So I ended up with a decent following by like 2013, 14. It was back in the day when like Christian Guzman, Chris Jones, Hodge twins, you know. Ogus, yeah, dude. Those full day of eatings way back in the day.
I saw a post the other day, and somebody was like, what the fuck happened to this? And it showed like Mike Rashid and CT Fletcher, all these guys yelling and screaming and training hard, and then it just cut to like dudes with man buns. Like, how did we get here?
Just like this.
Just like that. And that's beautiful, by the way.
But you're 250 with size 14 feet. So, like, at the end of the day.
Thank you.
Yeah, no one's going to say shit. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so man, it grew, and I found I buried myself in it. Like my competitive advantage back in the day, like before powerlifting really started to pick up, like when Candido and Meg squats and like other people in my what became my circle started coming in, my competitive advantage was just like outworking people, like beating the shit out of myself to a degree where like a lot of people wouldn't. So early on, I was able to get a following because like not a lot of girls were posting lifting heavy either. Like I was just kind of out there as this little bit of an alien, like, hey, I'm just doing my thing. I'm going to lift as much weight as I possibly can. And that was kind of the start of the channel, was just going in and lifting as heavy as I possibly could.
That's like 10 years ago now. Do you think like you think starting, like if someone starts now, do you think it's well, obviously like it might be harder because there's like more competition, but what about even in terms of like comments and stuff and just I think like to me from what I can remember, it seemed like YouTube was more fun. Like people would say stuff, but it was like more jokes. And then other people would chime in. There'd be a lot of joking. It wouldn't be, at least from what I remember, it didn't seem like it was so serious.
Yeah, it did in many ways felt like this tight-knit community back then. It was very cool. But there was also like something I experienced. I don't know how many other YouTubers back then experienced it, but like the Fitmisk and like Jason Genova found me. There was that crew. That was rough. That was rough for 20-year-old me. You know, I didn't know quite how to handle that group of people.
Like, what did he do? What is that called? 6'6" or
Order
whatever?
66,
Order 66.
baby.
There you go.
Order 66.
Yeah, that does sound familiar. Okay.
Meg
Yeah.
Spots. There she is.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was an interesting dichotomy between those things. And I didn't, back then, again, I was so young. It was interesting how those comments came to affect me. And like, I didn't even realize it in the moment. It wasn't until I hurt myself and I got myself far away from YouTube. Like, I did have some problems leading into, oh man, that was a blast back then. We had so much fun, but also I've always been pretty hard on myself. So it was also very easy for me to lean into those comments that were, you know, a little more brutal. So I kind of had to find that balance, and that took me some time.
Why'd you vanish into thin air for years? How many years were you like off the grid?
So yeah, it was like 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like 4 years. And for me, like the big wake up call was we were just going. Like I opened the gym, I had the clothing company, I was just going and going and going. And eventually towards the end of when I was on YouTube, like I was getting sick all the time. Like it was a running joke. I would go to an expo and I'd be like sick on the plane back. I wouldn't even make it back before I'd be sick. I'd get bronchitis, pneumonia, like I'd be out of it.
Yeah.
And then it all came to a head in 2018 when I fractured my spine. My husband and I had taken his nephew to a trampoline park, and we're just messing around. You know, I'm doing some flips. I didn't land on my head or anything. I just like, there's this platform that I jumped up onto, and I thought it was like one of the gymnastics mats that had some give, and it was just a platform. And when I hit it, it felt like someone stabbed me in the back. And ultimately, looking back, it was like, okay, I had developed all this strength as a power lifter, as a bodybuilder, but I couldn't funnel it through my body.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I hit the ground with all that force, that was it. Like my spine was just done at that point. And although it was hard because like my identity had become Chelsea Lifts. That was something that I hadn't really anticipated either. Like when people would come and see me, I wasn't Chelsea. I was Chelsea Lifts. So to have that change so fast was wild. And when I hurt myself like that, I realized like I got to step back and just reflect on everything that had happened because it all happened so fast. There were so many expos, so many people I'd met. And I had to figure out what I was outside of the work and outside of the beating myself up through lifting, because fitness is a beautiful thing. Like lifting is incredible. I'm always going to do whatever I can to encourage people to get into that, but also encourage people to be aware of the reasons they're getting into it. Like I think a lot of people start dieting just because they can't accept themselves, or they get into the gym because they just can't accept themselves. And being conscious of those things can save you a lot of pain down the road if you can take the time to work through those things beforehand. And for me, I just dove in head first so fast. I had to take a big step back. I mean, my life totally changed when that happened for the better. But
Question real quick. The accepting themselves thing. What do you mean? Because like, it's not always a bad thing if somebody doesn't accept themselves the way they are, right? So
100%.
So what do you mean when you say that?
100%. So for me, I guess a better way to put it would be I've always been very judgmental of myself, like always kind of taken the stance that I could always be doing better. Like I would always look to do more and more. I would judge myself in that way, and how that manifested was overworking. You know, like not hiring people to help me with the clothing business as that scaled, not properly hiring people when I opened the gym, doing stuff like that. And it was really more of that for me.
Gotcha.
but it also took things to a pretty incredible level too. Like, you know, so you got to balance those things. I don't think you see people build big things without some level of always wanting more, you know, always pushing and pushing. But for me, yeah, that was my journey.
Gotcha.
Andrew, you were mentioning getting out of pain earlier.
Yeah.
And, you know, what are some sports? What's some of your background and what kind of has led you to this point where you're trying to now, I guess, maybe reverse some of the things that you did previously?
Amen. Yeah. So I started out, I've been a baseball, football guy my whole life. Pushed it pretty hard in high school. Had a lot of opportunities to go play in college, and I ended up choosing baseball just because I allowed some scouts and some coaches tell me I could make a lot more money playing baseball. But by the time I was 21, I had like 3 knee surgeries, torn this, torn that. I hit the weight room heavy and hard. I was probably 260 by the time I was 19, just stacked, but I couldn't move. And it was so frustrating, like Chelsea was saying, not being able to express your athleticism that you thought you had. So again, by the time I was 19, 20, so much pain. I was tired of being in pain. And so
you could probably still do your sport, but you were still in pain, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love all my coaches to death, but in high school, I didn't receive correct weightlifting coaching. Even in college, love my coaches to death. Didn't receive the best coaching. So kind of wrecked my body early, and I was so frustrated. I just wanted to get out of pain. But luckily, because of my athletic career playing at San Diego State, I got my grad school paid for. So, you know, playing my 5th year was really, really opportunistic. And getting your master's degree in Homeland Security, you know, all these opportunities you thought were going to come your way, they didn't really come. I was getting recruited by a couple different agencies and ended up choosing the strength route because I didn't want to get shot at all day. I didn't want to go into some crazy agency and just be that bad guy catcher. So ended up choosing the strength route just because I wanted to get my body strong. I wanted to move better and get out of pain. So, yeah, baby. Finally, like we were just talking about earlier, Mark, I'm 29 now, and I live pain-free, basically. And it makes me emotional because that's kind of my for us coaches, that's what you get your kicks out of is you help the average Joe, you help the average Jane get out of pain for just one day and to see the emotional monkey off their back, just be like, you know what? I don't have to live through this every single day. Things can get better. Just teaching them just new types of movement, new ways of thinking. So that's really kind of how I ended up getting in the strength game.
Yeah, I think the term working out is a really interesting one because you are trying to like work things out. You know,
Oh, yeah.
like mentally, physically. And as you're pointing out, like sometimes you go and work out and it maybe puts a lot of life questions on pause, and you go and you squat 315 and you're like, I'm fucking badass. Like that was cool. You accomplished something. You feel good about yourself. And you kind of forget about the other problems, and you maybe aren't advancing in some of the ways that you otherwise could. And I think we fall short in not recognizing that it's a body, mind, spirit. Like this whole thing needs to be a practice. It needs to be like a martial art. Lifting weights needs to be treated like a martial art, where we're not just getting the inputs. Like the inputs aren't enough. We need to recover from the inputs, and we need to really strategically think about what we're doing, how we're doing it. If we want to grow stronger, maybe it would be wise to think about how can I grow stronger in some other areas. Maybe I can read a book, or maybe I could listen to a podcast, or maybe if I have anxiety, maybe I can do a YouTube search, start to look at these things, start to investigate. And that's what I've always found for me has been so great with fitness, is that it's allowed me to explore a lot of things. It's given me confidence in fitness, which has been able to carry over into some other things.
Amen. Yeah, I've never been confident. I was never truly confident in myself until I kind of broke out of the box and started to really learn. Obviously teamed up with WEC Method guys and finally found like I was able to express my athleticism. I was able to express myself. Yeah, it's been quite the journey, but very happy where we're at right now.
So Chelsea, like, how did you, come across WEC Method also? Because like you were a big lifter, and now, I mean, I haven't seen any lifting on your feed. You probably do some, but I just see ropes, WEC stuff, rotational stuff. Why'd you start vibing with a lot of that stuff instead?
Yeah, so the crazy thing is I only found David's work like a year ago, and that alone blew me away because it was like I had my CSCS, I was well studied, that was what I went to school for. But back in the day, it was kind of popular to like clown on the Bosu ball and stuff like that, Yeah, more like Chelsea flows
She's
nowadays.
A ninja. Look
But
at this.
when I found David's work, I had noticed he followed some other people that were like out of the fitness space, like Robert Edward Grant and other people that were applying more metaphysical concepts, and seeing how he was applying that to the body. And then I learned more about how he took the time after he invented the Bosu ball to actually go study Eastern medicine. And that's where things started to click. So I saw that he was merging those things. And when I started using the Bosu ball, started playing around with the rope, that nutritive movement that I'd get just from doing simple figure eights did so much more for my pain management than anything I had done for the previous 3 years since I had hurt my back. So I'm a pretty extreme person. Just like when I got into lifting, like that was what I got into. That was my life. Like I became Chelsea Lifts. I really got into rope flow. I really got into those things, and it totally took away the pain. And it also, I loved rope flow because it was a practice I craved. It wasn't something I woke up and felt like I needed to do. It made me feel good, so I just woke up and I wanted to do it. And when I started to get out of pain, that was like a whole nother layer of reflection because I hadn't realized how much the pain was impacting just my decision-making process. You don't think clearly when you're in pain. So I thought I had reflected on a lot in like 2018, 2019 after I hurt my back and I was out of it. But like there was a whole nother awakening beyond that when I was actually finally out of pain. Like at first I slowed down and then finally I was out of pain.
I'd like to pause on that point just for a moment and for people to understand if they can think about a day where they just felt really, really sick, just a day where you felt you were really nauseous. What's your drive? What's your determination at that point? You have none. Like your whole goal is just to get better. Yeah. You just sit there and your stomach's aching and just like moan and groan, and like it just takes time to get over it. But you're certainly not going to go to the grocery store. You're not thinking of healthy foods. You're not thinking of, and so for a lot of people, people are in so much pain that they can't think outside of their own pain. Something hurts. It's preventing them from doing a lot of the things they want to do. And so it's easy to point the finger and say, "Oh, look how lazy these people are. They're not doing, not doing A, B, and C, and they could be doing all these things to get better." But literally, some people are in enough pain, mentally, physically, maybe a combination of the two, to where it's very difficult for them to take their first step.
Pat Project family, we love beef on this podcast. We talk about it a lot. All right, we love our meat. But sometimes eating the same meat all the time can get a little bit boring. That's why we partnered with Good Life Proteins, which also has certified Piedmontese on their website. But sometimes you might just want to eat some chicken or fish or duck. Duck. Who eats duck? But you can eat duck. That's why if you go to goodlifeproteins.com, you can select their Build-A-Box options and input all the proteins you want. Then you'll select subscribe and save to save money on all of your meat. If you enter code PowerProject at checkout, you can save up to 25% on your subscription. That means you're going to be saving 25% on all of that different meat that's going to be heading to your door. Once again, head to goodlifeproteins.com. You can enter code PowerProject and save up to 25%. Links are in the description box below, as well as the podcast show notes.
Amen. I deal with one of my coaches right now is DJ Murakami. You should hit Strong Camps. I see him every week. Great guy. And I'm recovering from this broken ribs of mine. And there's this trepidation of being scared of heavy loads again, working out, because one of the worst pains, it's actually rated, there's a medical level or grade of pain, of course, at the top, which we'll talk about, is pregnancy or childbirth. Right under that is broken ribs and broken femurs. They're extremely excruciating breaks.
I would say stubbing your toe is much worse.
Yeah, exactly right. Or a kick to you know what might hurt. But anyway, so DJs kind of helped me get over this, like being scared of heavy loads again. And like Andrew, maybe the heavy loads, maybe the heavier weight is what your body needs again. So getting over this mental barrier that I'm just going to deal with this every day. It's going to be there. It's not going to get better. DJ's been huge in helping me just throw up a little bit more weight. Let's lift some heavy stuff again. Don't be scared of it. Like this is a controlled environment. I got you. Let's lift, and it's worked wonders. So if anybody, obviously those listening, check out Strong Camps. The guy's an absolute beast. Andrew, if you'd pull him up, the guy, and he's like a Yoda inside this tiny gym, and he's one of the most knowledgeable men I've ever met. But
Jesus.
dude, just an insane guy. So
what about the heavy lifting has been helpful? If you know.
Chelsea this is a great one, and I believe you spoke on it recently as well. Chelsea just mentioned a gentleman named Robert Edward Grant. He's just an academic.
Sounds like someone from the 1800s or something like that.
Dude, he's a very smart individual, but he speaks on a principle called softening. And softening is the ability to basically put down all these hard barriers, all of our masculine hard barriers that we usually put up, and really getting deep into the tension and learning how to relax and really just learning how to get soft. I believe it was a video you posted in Nsima about your heavy lifts and how you don't create over tension in your head or your chest cavity. So I had to learn that principle in the sense for lifting heavier loads to be like, you know what? If you're gonna go lift this 200-pound sandbag, you have to inhale. You have to relax first to get the most pressurization. So I think I'd say that learning how to get soft again to really create true tension. That's been something that's been big for me.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. Like from a powerlifting perspective, when I'd bend down to grab a bar for something like a deadlift, I would get myself in what I would consider to be the worst position. Round over intentionally, just, and the reason why I would do that is just so I had the contrast, like you're talking about, between soft and hard, having that contrast of being able to kind of feel your way through the lift. So I would get into a bad position and I would kind of pull on the bar. I would use that tension to wire it all through my body and to create tension. Like, let's create tension in the lats. Let's create tension in the arms. Let's create tension in all these spots. And then, if I went through some of those checkpoints, then I was ready to go. I'd do the same thing on the bench. I would lay flat, and I didn't really arch like crazy on the bench, but it's like, okay, this is flat. And then that's the way I would teach it a lot of times too. And it really seemed to click with people because everyone has like a certain degree of an ability to do something wrong, especially the first couple times they do it. So all that can register with them. They're like, oh, this is the wrong way. Like, yeah, let's get into a position that doesn't feel great. And now you see why we're not using that position to lift the heaviest amount of weight. Okay, now let's retract the shoulders. Let's get the chest up. Let's try to arch, drive energy, through the floor, whatever it was I was teaching.
Yeah, and one more personal experience about this softening ideology is I was a fat kid whole life, biggest fat kid in class, obviously extremely insecure about it, and I would suck in my gut all day. And you want to talk about hypertensive qualities, like I was really never truly connected to my lower core, my pelvic floor until 5-6 years ago when I really started to learn all this stuff. So the ability to finally relax this and then truly get a much greater inhale and obviously a bracing because of that. I've never been stronger in my life. And it's because I'm not just going hard. I'm learning how to get soft again. And I know that sounds funny, but you know what I mean, fellas. So
I've been thinking that the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. So that softening idea is a pretty good one.
Ladies are like, I don't think this soft.
Yeah, what is this? Yeah.
Let me ask both of you guys this because Chelsea, you mentioned like you just found yourself seeking out the rope and doing rope flow stuff for that spinal movement. When you started doing that, was it at all uncomfortable for you? Was it at all uncomfortable for your spine to move in that way with the ropes? Because I think some people look at it and they're like, oh, that looks nice. That looks flowy and whatever. But they don't necessarily see how beneficial it can be.
Amen.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, this is just my experience. It felt incredible right out of the gates.
Nice.
Just simple figure eights. And yeah, like I said, because it felt so good out of the gates, the beautiful thing about it is, I mean, you can get real complex with rope flow. You could piece together all sorts of flows, but almost anybody can just get started with a simple figure eight. And really, really just in the first week, I had so many realizations that, like, in the past, when I was just in it and like obsessed with just programming and powerlifting and all of these hyper masculine things, I'd become muscle bound is the way I've come to think of it. Like, I got stronger and stronger and stronger, but I was moving worse and worse. You know, I'm like waddling around by the end of this, you know? It was not good. So my biggest goal in the last year has been to get soft, like Andrew said, find that flow again, develop good movement patterns before I really start to dive into strength training again. Because, I mean, that's always going to be something I love. I've been an athletic kid my whole life. Weights were the thing. Like, I got into swimming, and like that became my competitive advantage. None of the other girls and like junior high and stuff wanted to lift weights, but I was all for it. And man, as a sprinter, did it make a difference fast. Like, it was exhilarating to put on that muscle so fast. But like Andrew had mentioned, sometimes, like, especially when you're doing sports in high school and you know, you have coaches that are spread thin, they're not going to be hyper educated on what exactly to do in the weight room. They're a lot of the times going to kind of throw you in there, and you're going to be doing a mix of stuff, you know, some great stuff, some stuff that might not be programming good motor patterns. But with the rope, it just got me into good fundamental patterns that I know are now going to be the base of the next period of my life where I do start lifting heavy again.
Yeah. And I think it's great that you mentioned lifting heavy again, because it's like there's nothing wrong with lifting heavy, but you do notice, you know, when you're an athlete where that's the only thing that you do, it's very good to get very good at that. But then when you're walking around and you're moving around, everything is moving as one unit, because like when you're squatting, benching, and deadlifting, you create this global tightness, which then you take into the rest of your life. It seems like running's your way of getting soft, huh, Mark?
Yeah. I think so. I think it's softened me up quite a bit. With lifting, I mean, the whole intent, especially when those weights are really heavy, is you're just trying to be as solid as you can. And if you think about it, there's really not a lot of there's not other areas in sport where that's similar, you know. In something like swimming or tennis, you get one shoulder lower than the other, one shoulder's higher than the other. I think we have a tendency to think of like whatever arm is like the main arm that's moving, like in a pitch, or when somebody's throwing football, or again when somebody's swimming, you're thinking of like the lead arm, but there's the back arm and there's the twisting of the body. It's just it's interesting. Like, we don't move anything like we normally move, or the way that we teach to move oftentimes in the gym. And so for me, it's like, let me just try to make some small adjustments to some of the lifts that I do, because I do like them, and I like I do think that bodybuilding will have good use for me and good utility for me probably forever. So doing some curls and stuff, someone may argue like, it might cause some tightness or it might cause some problems, but to me it seems to be more benefit than there is negative. And then why not just do a mix of things? So I'll do a little bit of bodybuilding, I'll do some rope flow, I'll do some running, I'll do some movements that are allowing me to express and challenge some athleticism. And I think for power lifters and for some bodybuilders, I think it would be a good idea to explore some of these things. And for the young people out there, if they can just try to keep and maintain some of the stuff that they got, like if you have any capacity to run, a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, something like that, you should really work on trying to keep that. You don't even really necessarily need to work on being much better than that, but I think if you can keep that throughout your lifting career and keep that throughout your life, I think it'd be really useful. And then things like some sort of jumping, some sort of throwing, And maybe just, I don't know, trying some different sports, like go play some pickleball or soccer or something, you know, try some different things, especially if you're young. There's really no reason why. And if you go to do those things and you really struggle to do those things or you get hurt, then you have to kind of ask yourself the question about like, what's your training really doing for you?
Yes.
You shouldn't be getting hurt out there just playing a pickup game of pickleball.
Totally.
Yeah, everybody just wants to feel good. And that's why I love being a part of this WEC method community. It's just about making people feel good and really trying to inspire the younger generation in terms of like physical education and getting them inspired to go do something and do different types of movement. I love that idea. Love coaching the younger guys.
Switching into some of the stuff that you're switching into with more athleticism, are you losing size? I mean, you're a huge guy.
Yes, I'm definitely losing size. Thank you for noticing, Mark.
Massive.
Yeah, losing size. And you know what? I'm okay with it right now because we are working our butts off. We're really inspired with this work we got going right now. So, I definitely need to schedule more time for myself to get in the gym. But right now it's just really making myself want to feel good myself. I love learning new things right now. So I'm in this learning phase. But we're pretty busy right now. We need to get more in. Yeah, you got to practice what you preach, right? And that's one thing I really don't fall to. It's hard to go take fitness advice from somebody who's extremely overweight. It's kind of just hard for me to accept that. So when I have pro fighters, pro baseball guys, younger guys, pregnant women come train with me, like I do, I look at myself and be like, hey, are you living that life you're preaching?
You're not insinuating that you're overweight, though, are you?
Do we
Let's
have
say
a
a
body
couple-
dysmorphia battle?
Yeah, exactly, right? Let's just say I know I could be a lot better where I'm at. And I just got to spend more time on myself, to be honest.
It can be so easy to compare yourself to the perceived peak. Like that was something I did to myself. I mean, with all the expos and different things, I mean, I would do like Lyle McDonald's PSMF, like shit that I would never recommend anybody else do.
Yeah.
Just because, I know these things are going to live on the internet forever. And it's crazy to look back and see even what that's done to my mind since. Because, it's human nature, you want to compare yourself to whatever your perceived peak state is. But it's like, what was that peak state? I know my peak state where I looked super jacked and like lean, I was getting sick all the time. I was well on my way to injuries. So, you gotta step back a little bit and not just look at whatever that image is of yourself, because it differs person to person.
What are some of the movements that you guys are incorporating now that you think might be fairly easy for people to implement? That's just a small add-on because, we fill up people's plate with a lot of stuff, you know, and they're like, shit, man, these guys keep giving me more stuff. They're talking about sunlight. They're talking about this, talking about that. What are some things that maybe just wouldn't really take that much time? You do it maybe before a workout, at the end of a workout, but it's still going to reap a lot of benefit.
Yeah, I'll go first. This is a warm up that we have. Basically, everybody perform before a big lift, but it's basically hitting all sides of the core. And again, this is a lot of the WEC methods principles, but we go do a unilateral exercise, a bilateral exercise, and a rotational exercise. So we'll go do some side bending, some coil, warm up each side, whether it's to your actual core front side or it's to hitting your lats on the posterior side.
Can you explain the coil just a little bit more?
Course,
I remember when
of
David
course.
came doing that, you just start doing that shit.
I
every
know.
day.
Oh, I know.
Start to cramp up.
So
It's like,
coil is a type of lateral flexion, or just it's just basically side bending. And again, everybody knows, anterior, posterior, kinetic chain. You have your core here, but you also have your core back here. And so it's just a simple side bend, and you're learning how to connect again to really your external obliques and then your big, strong lats. So you go side bend, and then you go do a bilateral exercise. Think of like undulation, I believe that's the term, but full expression of flexion and extension. So think of like a cat-cow or something like that. And then go do some rope flow, go do some rotational movement. So you're not just all bilateral all day. You've expressed the full limit of the side bend on this side of your spine, the full range of motion on this side of your spine. And to be honest, you wake up. It's something that kind of, for someone who's never truly moved in those positions, like we've had people come into the lab who've never bent in that way before.
Yeah.
And it is the aha moment. Because, and again, just for the viewer's sake, think about doing your whole life in the bilateral plane. Think of yourself just rowing. I'll turn around for a second. Think that you've been rowing like this your whole life. You're only getting upper lats, trap, round boy, everything. But until you apply this small side bend, you're never really truly getting like the QL, lower erectors, everything deep down there. And that's where everybody's bugaboo spots are. Yeah, that's a homie, Josh Bell. He's a beast. So yeah,
I do think that most of the injuries in the back are from those muscles that you're talking about.
Amen, brother.
I mean, at least for me, like that might be a weakness of mine, but I notice whenever my back will flare up, it's kind of always in those areas that you're talking about there.
Oh yeah.
And it might not, as you know, your spot of injury or spot of pain is not necessarily where you need to be focusing your attention. So somebody might have a lower back pain, but it's probably because they have a foot collapse on their opposite leg. So yeah, just having people think differently is really cool in the gym. It is quite, you're thinking a lot. When you come to the WEC Method Lab, you got to have your brain ready to go because we are going to make you think as well as move differently.
I think that you utilize these methods and techniques in the weirdest ways and the most unexpected ways. So when you start to do this stuff, you start to see that it's everywhere.
Yes.
And that it's been kind of hiding in plain sight for years. Something as simple as like if I put this, if I screw on this top too hard to this shaker cup and then I try to get it off of here, like, of course I'm going to use my wrist and stuff and my arms, but then I'm going to find myself twisting.
Yeah.
I was mixing up something at my house the other day, like a yogurt and a protein powder, and I was like leaning to the side because it was like thick, and I had to like get extra leverage. So I'm
And
like,
you're all like, oh, geez.
I'm like head over foot.
David Weck's in my
Always
brain.
recoiling.
He's living, swimming in my brain. Yeah.
But you don't really realize like how often you use that. And
Yes.
if you're in sports, if you're in something like jujitsu, you guys are, utilizing these movements a lot. And that's why I would recommend for people to try to work their way toward a sport. I think what makes the rope so effective is that you could probably go out and practice like Tai Chi or some other movements that maybe are similar. But the rope is kind of like a distraction. Like really, you're kind of just dancing.
It's like
But it
play.
might feel awkward to you to just randomly dance if you're not used to that.
Yeah, the reason I like the rope so much as well is because of what we're talking about, the softening and the hardening, and like living on both ends of the spectrum. I live by this principle. It's fire and ice. Us men, we know the most aggressive state. We know how to get aggressive when we get there. But we also know the complete opposite, the soft, how do I say it, very tranquil, very just relaxed manner. And living in that balance is really good. So when I'm rope flowing, I feel the softening. I feel it. I feel loose. But then I also, when you amp up the intensity and overall mind state of it, I feel like a freaking gladiator. I feel like a badass. And I feel if I had a pair of nunchucks in my hand, I could do some dangerous things. So getting to play in between the hard and the soft, it gets pretty addictive. It gets pretty addictive.
Power Project family, if you're trying to increase your muscle mass, if you're trying to lose body fat, if you're trying to stick to your nutrition plan, if you're trying to get fit, pretty much if there's anything you're trying to do for your health, we know that sleep is the biggest determining factor to help you get from point A to point B. That's why we've been sleeping on 8 Sleep mattresses for probably more than 2 years now. And the main reason is the technology behind the Pod Pro. Now, the Pod Pro is like the Tesla of beds. It will change its temperature based off of how you're sleeping during the night. And if you have a partner that's sleeping on the other side, they could have their own temperature settings. We all sleep hot here, and I used to wake up in a puddle of my own sweat.
Gross.
That doesn't happen anymore because of the 8 Sleep mattress, and I've been getting the best sleep of my life. Now, if you don't want to replace your mattress, you can just get the Pod Pro cover, and you can put that over your current mattress to get all the benefits of 8 Sleep. But if you also need to replace your old nasty mattress, you can get the Pod Pro cover and the 8 Sleep mattress. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, you guys got to head over to 8sleep.com/powerproject, and you guys will automatically receive $150 off of your order. Again, 8sleep.com/powerproject. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
And I think one of the coolest things about all of these things is, for example, the rope is something you can pretty much do anywhere.
Yeah.
You don't need a gym. You don't have to schedule it for after you get off work, then you go to the gym and you do rope flow, right?
Yeah.
But as you start accessing these different areas, first off, if you're someone who's only been lifting for the longest time, that's going to be one of the ways you can start getting out of pain, because now you have access, right? If you had a lot of lower back pain and now you start actually getting some bend there, you'll start just like moving more with that area, because it's like now your brain is connected to it. Whereas before, you've only been doing these movements in a certain way. And now, like when you're brushing your teeth, you're programmed to do that. When you're walking down the stairs, when you're getting out of your car, those are the only sets of ways that you tend to move. So this stuff's fucking, it has a cascading effect on the way you do things globally.
Amen. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's basically for everyone. I would recommend rope flow to a child. I could recommend it to a senior citizen who hasn't moved in years, pregnant woman. We're basically
How'd you
recommending.
point at yourself when you said pregnant
I
woman?
don't know. That's our business. That's our business right now, and we're kicking butt in what we do. Absolutely inspired in this business. So to transfer,
I'm
maybe
massively attracted to pregnant women. Sorry. It's a thing. I'm sorry.
really,
Yeah. They got a glow.
no,
That pregnancy.
yeah, no
And you know they
comment
put
right
out,
now.
so there you go.
Jesus Christ.
How'd you guys get into this?
So I'll start in that. Like, obviously, again, I've been
All the pregnant women that were just here, like, I'm out.
Just out.
Or they're like, I'm in. Let's go.
They just got a really good compliment. I think. Yeah.
Anyways, I started this business about 4 years ago. I've been with the WEC Method guys for upwards of 6 years now. And again, training some of the best athletes in the world. Jordan Burroughs, the Jean-G Ribeiro, all the MLB All-Stars and World Series winners. So best of the best. And to be brutally honest, I was getting bored as hell of it. I was just getting so bored. I thought it to be very just single-sided. Like I was telling Nsima, like I'd be with, my pro baseball buddies. They'd be training, I'd be coaching. They go do one set and then they go text their girlfriends. And it's just like, I'm just like, this is not that fulfilling as I thought it would be. So I was with my buddy and we were basically just writing out 20 ideas that is going to, take us to the top, 20 ideas to get us about 5 to 10 million. And one of my ideas was, you know what if we brought all these principles and all the different academic learnings that I had and applied this to pregnant women? Because it's a very, very underserved field, and I was doing a hip thrust, and I was performing. You guys are familiar with the torsion, right? External torsion, internal torsion. I was externally torqued on this hip thrust, and I was like, God damn! I had my aha moment. I was like, I feel like a pregnant woman right now, and I feel like I could push so well if I had to. And so the first person I went to was my mother. And my mother is a 35-year career clinical nurse specialist in labor and delivery. And she actually works in the research and education department for her hospital.
Now that click makes sense.
Yeah.
Like yeah. There we go.
So I go to my mother and I told her the pitch and I stumped her Sicilian ass. Just the jaw dropped and she's like, she was in awe. And I was like, Mom, this works. We're going to get women's back and core stronger than ever. Because what do you think about, when you think about pregnancy, what do you think of back pain? So we're going to get women's core and back stronger than ever. We're going to teach them to walk better, alleviating the pregnancy waddle. I don't know if you boys understand that. The women, it's an anti-fall move. Women get this thing called a pregnancy waddle. Well, their feet and hips go in external rotation because, again, one of the biggest scares for pregnant women is tripping and falling and harming their baby. Yeah. So what do? They lean back. And it obviously messes up their gait process. So that is a big reason for back pain. So
pregnant women and power lifters.
amen, brother. Exactly. So we're going to make their core and back stronger than ever. We're going to teach them how to walk with greater balance. And then most importantly, we're going to prepare them for labor and delivery by teaching them how to push more effectively. So we created this method called the push practice. And the push practice, along with what we call the labor flow, is teaching them how to create tension in a more efficient manner in specific positions that opens up the birth canal. And I wish I had the video to pull up for Andrew right now, but here's a big secret that a lot of people don't know. And Mark, I don't know if you have heard so much of our success, but in the past 3.5 years, we've had almost 400 women in and out of active delivery in less than 10 minutes.
Wow.
So, I mean, the average delivery for a first-time mom is upwards of 4 to 6 hours. So we
You
are
said 426 or 4T6?
4 to 6,
Okay.
4 to 6 hours. So we are preparing these women by teaching them how to push more effectively, how to breathe, how to push more effectively, harnessing this tension. And then this labor flow is the different positions. So here's the real kicker on terms of the positions. What's the number one position, Mark, that you would think that a woman has, delivers in? She's normally in the inclined bed, right? With her feet in the bootstraps and her legs in external rotation. One of the biggest secrets of what we preach is your birth canal is about this big when your hips are in external rotation. When you apply internal hip rotation, your birth canal, just practice it right now. Like if you just went out like this, do you feel like you have a big hole down here? And now internally rotate, and you just feel your hips open up.
Yep.
And it I'll forward a video, but it is so much. It's such a dramatic change when you imply this.
So quick question.
Yes, sir.
I mean, in hospitals, they typically have them on their back on an incline. So what would be the birthing position? Does the birthing position change?
For a woman in the hospital?
For like the woman that...
Or a woman in our program.
Woman in your program.
So this labor flow is giving them the options. So we basically teach the woman on how to be the boss when you go into a labor and delivery room. Because if you're not the boss, those nurses are going to basically tell you everything to do. You go sit in the bed. This is where you're going to push. So we have to teach our women how to communicate with their nurses. Say, hey, I've been practicing multiple positions. I have this rhythm of which I'd like to breathe. Please encourage me in this. Yeah, that's walking downhill. That's pretty badass. So anyways, it truly doesn't matter, Nsima, in terms of the position. As in our respectful advice, again, I'm not a doctor, but I'm an exercise specialist. Either one or both legs in hip internal rotation, and that baby's out. I mean, I'll bring up the video maybe after, but the difference in terms of the birth canal with hips externally rotated and internally rotated is literally like that. We've had women push for only 2 to 3 pushes and the baby's out. So we've had experience of this 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4-minute pushes. It's
Even
just
first-time laborers?
First-time mothers, brother. So, I mean, that's what we do in a nutshell to kind of wrap this back around. We get women's core and back stronger than ever. We teach them how to walk with greater balance. We teach them how to push more effectively. And then most important, too, is the postpartum exercise. Because women don't get a lot of resources. When you, Mark, either when you go in for your first time visit with your nurse or your doctor, congratulations, you're pregnant, Susie Q. All right, we'll see you in a couple months in your checkup. Good luck. Research states that it's less than 50% of the time any woman is recommended any protocol for either exercise or even labor and delivery. So it's basically self-education for these women. And that's where we want to kind of flip the script, right? This is where I wanted to flip the script. This was my initial intention was, sports science, right? Exercise science, multi-billion-dollar industries. What about maternal fitness and health? It's literally at the bottom of the totem pole. So giving these women, especially like I was saying, resources come postpartum is most significant because postpartum depression is one of the biggest. It's a huge complication for women because they don't get any resources or referrals on how to put themselves back together. So unless you're a coach or an exercise specialist, good luck putting your core back together. If not alone that you had a vaginal birth or potential tearing, obviously if you had a C-section, there's so many long-term negative effects of not getting that correctly healed. So that's what we do in a nutshell is those things: back strength, walking gait, push practice, and postpartum fitness, baby. And we're kicking butt.
So you have a hot date coming up and you look in your closet and all you see are the old, ugly clothes that you usually wear and you're going to wear tonight. It's time to end that, guys. That's why we've partnered with Vuori Clothing, because they have some amazing athleisure clothes that you can wear in the gym when working out, but also clothes that you can wear on a date or during Hanukkah or whatever. You can wear these clothes wherever and they feel amazing. Some of our favorites are the Ponte Performance line, which has dream knit fabric, which literally feels so soft on your skin. But they also have this is the Rise tee, also soft, also feels nice and fits great. And they have a lot of amazing clothes that you need to check out to step your fashion game up. We're trying to help you out. Andrew, where can they get it?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys got to head over to vuori.com/power project. That's VUORI.com/power project, and you'll automatically receive 20% off your order. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
When it comes to internal rotation,
Yes, sir.
where there's internal rotation, there's flexion. And so a pregnant woman with the belly distended, they get an arch in their back. Mm-hmm. They end up being overextended. Mm-hmm. And so if you were to take their feet and kind of have them inward and take the knees and point them inward, it should actually release the back a little bit so the back can be in flexion, which is something that for people that are running is something you want to really be conscious of when you're running. You want to actually take your hips and just tuck them underneath you. Just for most people, people have different bodies, right? But for most people, just tuck the hips underneath you and it'll make all your running safer. But yeah, it's really interesting when you were bringing up internal and external rotation and you were bringing up what you were doing with the hip thrust and the torsion. I was thinking like, oh yeah, those two things, they go together. So the spine is probably flattening out and it probably just makes everything a lot easier, smoother.
And when I was with my mother, going back to kind of the origin story of this all, I showed her this video of the birth canal opening up with hip internal rotation. And I was like, Mom, like, what the hell? Like, and she's like, Andrew, we're just not taught this stuff. And it kind of, and I've probably talked to upwards of 2,000 labor and delivery nurses in between these 4 or 5 years, and maybe 5% know of what we're teaching. A lot of the people who know these type of methods are like the really experienced doulas or the really experienced midwives. I truly believe, labor and delivery nurses, I'm not bashing on them at all, but maybe they can just spend a day in the gym and learn what movement does to help a woman during her delivery. It helps tremendously.
I'm curious. Have you, because I've seen other people talk about, and I've seen a lot of female fitness influencers, they're training while they're pregnant. Uh-huh. What are the pieces that you think are most likely not being thought about? Because, lifting is great. Lifting is awesome. But what are those other pieces that you think, okay, if you maybe just think of it, and you might just repeat some of the things you already mentioned, but what are the pieces that they may think about adding in?
I think one of the first and foremost ones is pressurization, because think of Chelsea in her third trimester. Do you believe that she should create so much intra-abdominal pressure to a level 100%? Do you believe that would be safe for this growing fetus? In my respected belief, I don't know if 100% of the pressure, like we were going for our max out deadlift or max out squat, that might be too much pressure for that growing baby. So we teach this method called tension management. There's my beautiful sister and mother right there. Come on, baby. Shout out to moms. Anyways, overpressurization, I believe, is a huge problem. So we teach women a principle called tension management. Like we're talking about both sides of the core, anterior core, posterior core. What we teach with women is maybe 50, 60% here. Like when you're going and doing your lifts, maybe 50, 60, you still have to learn how to connect to these bad boys. But then to a point past that might be uncomfortable. It might be potentially too much for that baby to handle. So pressurization on the front side, Compared to the backside, though, the backside 110%. This is what we teach women in this push practice technique. We teach them to use their lats. That's where they're really pushing from. They're externally rotating, and they're using their lats. So teach them the difference. And again, if a woman's not really, if she doesn't have too much exercise experience, anyways, just getting her to feel this side compared to this side and how to, manipulate those, that's huge. So I think pressurization is a huge one. Chelsea, can you think of any other particular principles?
Oh man, that was the one that really blew my mind when I came into it, because I saw so many women just kind of continuing on with what they were doing before, continuing on with the same exercises. And I feel like what you do really well is get people into the back like that, so that they are like, when that pregnancy waddle comes, when that weight comes on, they can actually keep themselves stable by staying in that back.
Amen.
Yeah.
I'll go real quick back to the push practice and what we teach there. The first stage of labor is called the latent phase. It's actually clinically termed as the fight versus flight stage. It's in that initial moment when the majority of cortisol floods their bodies, and they either freak the F out or they're actually in a much more relaxed state. And when you go into this freak out state, when you go into the flight reaction, what do you normally do? You normally want to go into the fetal position, like curl up into a ball. So imagine I'm a woman who doesn't know how to push, or she doesn't know how to breathe correctly. She's normally going to react to her first initial contractions like this, like, and like obviously blowing up her head and her chest cavity, right? Yeah. But if you saw what I was doing with my fist, gentlemen, like I'm creating internal pressure. This is like the fetal position, and like telling like I'm scared and like I'm not ready for this baby to come out. So flight reaction. What if we can do the opposite? So applying the external torsion during these pushes.
Oh, okay.
Dude, you could tell, like, I mean, what's the goal of pregnancy and delivery? To get this baby out healthy and safely.
Open that shit up.
Let's go, baby. Let's get it out. So giving them the difference and even teaching them about their pressure. If you freak out, you're going to react and create internal pressure. Yep. If you know what you're doing, you're going to create external pressure, and that flow of pressure is going down and out, baby. So, love that stuff. I love the ability to, again, teach people about their tension. I'm pretty good at telling where somebody's holding the majority of their tension, up here, here. So I think that's a huge part of what we do.
Have you guys been able to systematize this for like other coaches? Because I know you two are working on this. Do you guys have a team of coaches that also does this?
Yes, we do. We have our own coaching certification.
Nice.
And thankfully, we've certified over 100 coaches around the world. Nurses, doctors, doulas, fitness coaches, basically anybody that handles a woman during her pregnant years, we've certified. And that's what we're doing now, is traveling the world, certifying people. Because going back to fitness, gentlemen, and Mark, you can tell me different if you believe different, but if a pregnant woman walked into a 24-hour fit or an LA Fit, 99.9% of the time, those coaches aren't going to understand or be confident in coaching a pregnant woman in the gym. And Chelsea was kind of leaning on the idea where we truly believe pregnancy fitness is not a regression of just traditional lifting. Pregnancy fitness is its own science. And you need the understanding of how to do that correctly, because one rep for a pregnant woman could potentially be extremely harmful toward that baby and even the mother. I mean, like hyperflexion, just bending over like this all day, and they don't even know how to properly hinge. They're literally just squishing their poor child. So it's really an inspiration and a drive for us to get us coaches and fitness experts a little bit more in tune with helping pregnant women, because this is our motto. When you help the pregnant woman, you're helping the whole family. And we truly believe what we do is not just maternal health, it's familial health. And it really inspires us.
Yeah, and on that note, something else that's kind of become a part of the certifications, we're starting to have partners come in and get certified. Like we had Spencer
Oh yeah.
down there. You know, we're starting to get partners involved because obviously, if you can have your man come in and give you that support, not only in the gym, but like Andrew said earlier, things can get hectic when you get in the hospital. You know, all the nurses have their timelines and different things that they tend to want to stick to. Like, you really need to be able to step up and speak for yourself. Like, for me, the thing that blew my mind, I met Andrew through David. Like, he was at the lab the first time I came, and I was just trying to fix my back at the time. But I've been going through a whole fertility journey. You know, we've been wanting to start a family for years now, and as the algorithms work, like what I started to see as I was researching down that was some of the really tough stories that women had when they would actually go to give birth, like whether they didn't expect to end up in the hospital or their birth plans weren't followed. It can be so impactful to go through something like this with a partner, because then it's not only you saying, "Hey, I've went through these, you know, I've went through these, I've practiced these different positions. I don't know which one I'm necessarily going to use when the time comes," right?
Yeah.
Like, you can have a birth plan, but things are going to get crazy. But you can have your partner there and have them actually back you up and have that second person that just rock solid to help you get through that time. And, you know, when women are empowered knowing that they can come in, you know, be the boss, and they understand their body to the point where, a lot of times active labor is shorter for them. That sets them up so much better for those early years of actually starting a family, because how much easier is postpartum training when, you know, you weren't in active labor for 6 hours. I know my mom had a rough time. I had forcep marks on my head for a couple days. 'Cause, you know, when my mom had me, they were trying to pull me out with those things. It was, you know, it's tough for some women. So
Yeah, it's tough for a lot of women. And going back to the whole paternal health, fitness, and health, that's what I think I do a great job at, because, I mean...
Oh, yeah, I'm going to get a cert just for understanding this for my girl.
Dude, we would love to have you, Nsima. And it's important, because who wouldn't want a supportive partner like that? But I think I do a good job at that, because people see me, big, hairy guy, and they're just like, again, what is this guy doing coaching pregnancy, fitness, and health? But to get the partner involved, I absolutely love that, dude. It's like we talked about getting bored in the gym. How freaking cool is that to have a pregnant woman and her partner in the gym working out together to basically jumpstart their offspring and making sure this child's healthy. So it's such meaningful work, I can't tell you.
We got to get these women healthy, because we got to keep them in the kitchen as soon as they're done popping out that baby. They got to get back to making sandwiches and stuff, right? There's a lot of requirements.
As fast as possible.
What you got going on over there, Andrew?
I'm glad you pointed that out,
was a
so I
joke,
don't
guys.
have to. What was the joke?
Okay, keep it going.
Earlier we were talking about how, so when my wife had my son, she was 38, and at every turn she took, she had a doctor explaining, you're older now, so
Geriatric.
we have to take every precaution. And she's just like, well, shit, man, like, yeah, I guess I'm old now, because everybody's reminding me. But everything went so smooth, because she's very health conscious. She exercises. She does a lot of body weights, or she did a lot of body weight stuff when she was pregnant. And I'm very proud of her, because she was the only mother at that hospital that walked out.
Jeez.
Everyone else was in a wheelchair. Like, literally, I didn't find another, you know, mother that had not that I'm looking, but as we're walking out, I see a bunch, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, way to go. You know, we're walking.
Andrew,
I had to clarify, because I
You
was
guys
like,
like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All in wheelchairs.
like, babe, hold on. I'm going to take another lap. I want to see if I can find it.
Yeah, we have a lot of older women get referred to us. Because,
Yeah, and so that's what I wanted to ask. Like, is there a different protocol when they're 35
No,
plus?
not at all.
Okay.
No, every woman, every pregnancy they're unique. If you go back to that video, Andrew, of that woman doing a seated good morning with her child, that's one of her right there. This is our friend, 39 years old with MS, and she was in and out of active delivery in 13 minutes.
Yo.
She MS, you have no control of your muscular, like she has no control, but she was so well prepared to push at 39 with her first child, 13 minutes in active delivery, dude.
Damn.
Come on, man. So like it's stuff like that that keeps us rolling, right? And how cool is that? Like that's what we do in the postpartum training is we tell them, yo, bring your baby. Like you're with your baby 24/7. It's actually there's actual research that states if you work out with your baby alongside you, you're teaching your baby that, hey, this 30, 40 minutes is mom's time. I can cry all I want right now, but mom is taking time for herself. I see her doing it, and there's a lot of benefits there. So a lot of our exercises, instead of grabbing a freaking kettlebell or dumbbell, you grabbing Junior and you're working with that baby. So
Baby is an amazing counterbalance. I remember when I was fat, I'd use my kids to get off the couch. I'd actually, put them out in front of me as I was getting off the couch. Works great.
Yeah, it does.
13, 14 pounds, perfect.
You're absolutely right. So yeah, that's a big thing, and it's very disheartening for women when they get told by their doctor, Andrew, that like, hey, you are geriatric. You're geriatric. You're in line for a bunch of complications, and it scares the hell out of women. So just giving them a little bit more strength, getting them in the gym and putting some muscle on them, it is, as you know, it's extremely confidence boosting.
Yeah, because she got labeled with something, and it's like, whoa, like I thought I was totally fine, and it's like, no, you are fine.
Yeah, it's kind of BS.
Yeah, how about? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just thinking like when you see most doctors, you see most people, like first off, people that like exercise and do that, they're already a minority. So a majority of the people that these doctors are seeing are people who like maybe they're getting pregnant and giving birth, but they don't do much things to like take care of themselves and their body. Yeah. Right. So a lot of these complications happen to most of them, right?
Yeah.
So
and then so how do you guys coach to kind of we had a pretty good birth team, I think that's what they're called, but we still did kind of get bullied a little bit, even to the point where it was like I don't remember the terminology, but basically they were like, when this happens, that's when you're ready to go. And right now you're not ready. And she like sprinted out of the room, and we're talking, and I'm like, oh shit, no, you are ready. And I had to go grab the nurse, and then she came back in, and it's weird, Nsima, you'll get there soon, but like she just put her finger and like, oh yeah, you are ready to go. And it's like, whoa, if I didn't say anything, you wouldn't have like, what the heck? Like, so, and I'm terrified the whole time because I'm a wimp. So all this stuff is scary, just being in the hospital.
So what's your question, Andrew?
Just like what does that look like when, as far as like the mental coaching for getting ready for that aspect of childbirth?
So the first thing that comes to mind is learning how to deal with the pain of contractions. This external torsion is the way I dealt with my rib pain when I broke my rib. When I got my ribs tattooed, how did I deal with it? I dug into my lats and I learned how to deal with the pain. So we teach women how to deal with this contraction pain. And then number two, like we're trying to say, you have to teach these women on how to be the boss. Unless they're a very aggressive woman, this is such a, this is such a important time for them. They're not worried about like defending themselves in that moment. They're just worried about having the baby. So we have to teach our women, hey, Susie Q, when you go in there, you're telling the nurses that you know how to push. You know the positions of which you'd like to push. And going back to your story as well, we've heard the trauma stories of doctors not being in the room fast enough and nurses asking the woman, hey, can you not push right now? We're not ready. And it's not there. When the mom's ready, mom's ready, the baby's ready. Who cares if the doctor's not there? So I feel this, and it's difficult. So just basically teaching our women how to communicate with their nursing team. A lot of women don't even know. If you don't like this labor and delivery nurse, you're more than welcome to ask for a new one. So just knowing options, giving the woman as much education in this and resources as possible is most important to us.
Yeah. How about because Chelsea, you mentioned you guys have been trying. Does anybody come to you to help? Get healthier so that way they can prepare their bodies for getting pregnant?
Oh, absolutely, preconception.
Yeah. So what does that look like? Because there's people in my life right now that are trying and been unsuccessful, and it's like the worst thing like ever. And so I'm just curious, like what goes on there.
There's many things. And like I said, everyone's unique. Everyone comes to the table with either their own types of injuries, their own types of pain, where they're at with their exercise experience. But my ideology is this is the time to move. You know, second and third trimester, when you're a lot larger, it's going to be a slight regression in terms of how much you're rotating, how much you're truly coiling and stuff. So preconception, and this is why I think it's fun, it's more athletic training. It's moving in all these ways that you're probably not going to be able to move so much come third trimester. So it's pretty rigorous. Chelsea and I are going to get into a preconception workout right after this, and I'm going to kick her butt. She's going to do a lot of stuff, and it's just preparing the body for the most important moment of their lives. Like research states two things, gentlemen, in this field. At the bottom of all research articles, it's always in bold. If there's any a time for a woman to get fit, it's during her pregnancy. And then and right after that follows, this field needs more research. And thankfully, starting this next year, we're starting a clinical research study with this organization called Mom's Tour and Ask Me Your MD. Shout out Dr. Patricia Marsh, who's our primary investigator for this study. But our research study is with a population of 100 Black pregnant females. And so we are implementing our exercise protocol, and we're basically going to be proving that our exercise protocol can help the rates of C-sections and it'll also help decrease birthing complications. And how cool is it, too, that we get to address the racial bias in maternal health as well, giving this protocol to the women who really need it. Because if you look up the racial discrimination in maternal health, you're going to find a lot of stuff in terms of this BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, people of color. So, we're thrilled to have this research study get afloat.
Have you guys tried to get closer to the hospitals or not necessarily? Like, have you tried to, because I think there's like Lamaze classes and there's like some
Bradley method, Lamaze.
Yeah, there's some interventions that people can utilize along with going to their doctor regularly as they're in pregnancy. And I would imagine, I never really thought about it, but I imagine some of the stuff's paid by like insurance or whatever. Have you guys thought about ever trying to get into that realm of things, or like, or how to even break through?
Yeah, well, the research study is going to be a huge step in helping us get there. You know, once we've actually got it on paper and we can show, rather than just saying, "Hey, here's these women." I think that's going to be the point where we can actually start to have these services covered by insurance for women. Yeah, and working with trying to get there with doulas as well, because doulas are kind of in an interesting space where it comes to when it comes to getting coverage for the services. Like they're just now getting to the point, like New York finally just passed legislation that would cover doula services.
Yeah. Wow. I believe, you said California? Or
California had it maybe a year ago, and New York was recently, like a couple months ago. They're just getting around to it.
So diving into the medical insurance route 100%. You know what's close to my heart too, because of my academic background, is dealing with is giving this program to the military, the women in the military, active service women, veterans, because there's a term, military term called a force multiplier, and that means basically you do good in more than one area. So imagine you're a pregnant woman in the Navy or something. Our exercise protocol can keep you working longer because you're stronger longer into your pregnancy. And then it can also bring you back to work sooner because you're, again, getting stronger after. And then we're obviously helping the birthing complications. So we're helping the mother, but we're actually saving millions of dollars for the institution because they have to pay for the replacement when that mom is on maternal leave. They have to pay for those additional birthing complications. Military, insurance agencies, large-scale gyms, hospitals. We're dealing with everybody now. It's pretty fun.
And what about something like gestational diabetes?
Oh, yeah.
Have you guys been able to effectively help people with some of that, or have you run into some of that?
Of course, and just getting women like that a fitness routine. Like we'll start with this. I'll actually start talking about Dr. Carol. Dr. Carol Jean Marat is our lead medical advisor, and she's one of San Diego's first Black OBGYNs in San Diego County. There's a beautiful soul. Look how beautiful she is. Like that smile could just light up a room. And then you hear her talk in her Haitian accent, and it's just like smooth operator, baby. It's just like the most peaceful voice. So anyways, Dr. Carol actually specializes in diabetes work. So she's doing her own work right now with women with gestational diabetes. And we're really trying our best to address that too, because that's one of the greatest complications for women.
Yeah, it seems like lifting weights definitely helps with that.
Oh, of course, dude.
absolutely.
Like I said,
Yeah.
like just giving them a legit protocol, a protocol that they can believe in. That's not just the average P90X or a regression from traditional training. Giving the women an actual program that they know is going to get them stronger. It's going to protect their baby and help so many different aspects of their life. Once they're bought in, and like going to the confidence thing, we teach our coaches in our coaching certification a little bit more of the mindset coaching, because this is the most vulnerable time for a woman. And if Susie Q walks into the gym and she notices Andrew's not confident in what Andrew's coaching today, dude, it's like, it's completely, you're potentially going to harm my child. Like, why the hell would I listen to you? So just being extremely sure of what we're coaching, that's what matters a lot to us as well. But going back to what you're saying, for women with gestational diabetes and stuff like that, getting them out and getting them new habits, new exercise protocol, maybe a referral to nutritionists. Again, just giving them all the resources they need.
And curious about this. Are majority of the women that are working with you guys, are they a majority giving vaginal births? And what do you notice with the difference between women that go through your program that choose to do vaginal births and the ones that choose to do C-sections? Because there are probably some who choose to do that.
So thankfully, we have an extremely low C-section rate for the women that are working with us. I believe in upwards of 4 years, it's like 5%.
Okay.
And the growing rates of C-sections is one of the biggest problem in maternal health. Like, dude, it's high up there. And I don't know if you said why?
Why, yeah.
Have you, C-section is a business.
I want you to explain it. Yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
Like,
You make a lot more off of
C-sections is a business. There's
You
whole
get to schedule the day. You're like, I'll pick that day.
Dude, it's a whole
Like
business.
convenient.
There's documentaries, Netflix, all kinds of documentaries now.
There's the business of giving birth.
Yeah.
is one you could check out if you're interested about it.
Exactly. So, thankfully the women in our program, very low rates of C-section. And, we actually have a great return of VBAC, of vaginal birth after C-section. And so imagine a woman who, child number 1, C-section. When she comes and trains with us, knows how to use her core, finally tap into her pelvic floor, getting her breathing mechanics better, because that's a big part of what we do as well. Just getting her fit. Extremely high rate of VBAC births. So stuff like that is extremely exciting to us to formally study in this research study, because again, like, we can have our own qualitative work, but until it's medically supervised by doctors in a study, like then it can be taken to the next level.
There's also just like an insane amount of complications that can happen
Oh,
when
you're
somebody
right.
has a child. My first son, he wouldn't flip, so they had to do a C-section. So I think there's just sometimes like certain circumstances that happen. I've had some relatives have some complications where the mom was just like in so much pain because they were like passing kidney stones.
Yeah.
And they were really considering doing a C-section, but they still toughed it out, which was kind of interesting. Because there's so many things that happen. You know, it's like they were thinking about giving the mom painkillers for the kidney stones, but then they're like, you know, you have a baby, so how do we help you deal with
That's
this
rough.
pain? Like, there's just like a lot of weird scenarios, and it seems like every pregnancy for every woman is like vastly different.
Yeah, it's completely unique. You're right, Mark. There's no repetitive story that we've ever had. Every story is unique. Every woman's unique. Every pregnancy is unique, but there's commonalities in terms of what could potentially help, what could ease this process, what can make you stronger, and going back to maybe the preconception talk, that's why we think preconception training is so important. Because if you come to our program first or second trimester, yes, we can put muscle on. There's still time. But if we had a few months prior to put some muscle mass on, dude, that pregnancy is going to be smooth sailing.
Yeah.
So we're really advertising to the preconception mother, also the postpartum mother, because it doesn't matter if you had a child 2 months ago or 20 years ago, you're still a postpartum mother, and you could still potentially make this core a lot stronger than ever. So, yeah, we're really dealing with all ages of women.
I have a naive question when it comes to this, because you mentioned that a lot of the women that you work with, like, labor was 10 minutes.
Yes,
right?
sir.
So I know someone who's like scared of birth because of like the damage that can happen down there, right? Does this process that you have women go through, does it reduce any of the vaginal damage that might happen because of their ability to push and relax, et cetera?
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, how does that work?
Because they know how to create an external force of pressure.
Okay.
If you know how to truly pressure, it's similar to like the hernia, and if you know how to pressurize yourself, you're going to be in a lot less chances of potential tearing or any other complications. So
Wait, so question, does
Yes, sir.
tearing always happen, or
doesn't always happen.
really?
Not always.
No, not always.
Not always.
Not at all always.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, just learning how to properly pressurize yourself and properly push. I mean, fighting this internal pressure, does it look like I could push very well here? But applying different methodologies of pushing and different ways to breathe and create tension and learn how to relax and get soft, that stuff works, my man. That stuff works. And it's a passion of mine to kind of show to people, because I'm a C-section baby. And my mother has no functional use of her core. And, dude, it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad that these women don't get any other resources to help them out. Like I said, research states you only got 1 of 2 chance. If Chelsea just had a baby today, she has 50% chance that her doctor would refer her any protocol at all. So imagine like Chelsea trying to put her whole abdominals back together, and she's not a coach. How, like, wow. So just giving them resources to not only get back to what they were, but potentially get them stronger than they were to birth, like that's pretty powerful as well. Because, I mean, like I said, you strengthen the mother, you're going to strengthen the whole family. And I'm a big mama's boy, so whatever I can do to get my mom in the weight room and put a little muscle on my mother who's never really had any true muscle mass, I love that stuff.
I want you guys to imagine that you're wearing a cast on your hand and you're going through your whole day with this cast hand. Well, because your fingers don't move, your hand will start to become stiff, weak, and that'll work its way up your arm. That's the same thing that happens when you wear these damn shoes, okay? I'm sorry to curse, but it's frustrating because these shoes that have a narrow toe box, although they look nice and they're Nikes, narrow toe box so your toes can't move. They're not flat, so your foot is in this weird thing and it's not getting stronger. And they're not flexible, so they don't move and your foot just moves like this all day, which means your feet are getting weaker. That's why we partner with Vivo Barefoot Shoes. They have a bunch of shoes for the gym and casual shoes, but the thing about these shoes is that they are wide, they are flat, and they are flexible. So your foot can do what it needs to do and it can get stronger over time. That's gonna allow you to be a better, stronger athlete. Andrew, how can they get them?
Yes, that's over at vivobarefoot.com/powerproject. When you guys get there, you'll see a code across the top. Make sure you use that code for 15% off your entire order. Again, vivobarefoot.com/powerproject. Links in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
Throw these away.
Oh my God. Dude, watch the camera.
How did you get yourself out of pain? You mentioned early in the show that you got yourself to start to feel a lot better.
To be honest, I can't beat around the bush. A large part of it is because that guy's sitting right there.
David Weck, by the way, if you guys don't.
Yeah. that good looking guy right there. I can talk about different types of breathing modalities I'm studied under, but to be honest, until I learned how to properly walk and run with greater balance and side bend, like, dude, it was eye-opening. Like I told you earlier, 3 knee surgeries. Neither of my knees have any meniscus in them, so I have no cushion in my knees, and I'm 250 pounds, and I run like a freaking gazelle. And it's because I know how to move my body and use it with balance. So to be honest, just short answer is just I'm indebted to the WEC Method team, everything that they've taught us and really encouraged us with. They've just been world-class the entire time I've worked with them.
Has it been hard to get away from like traditional lifts because they're fun and because you gain strength and stuff?
To be honest, the traditional lifts are still there, but I just use different modalities. Like if I'm in a back squat now, I know how to truly externally torque to get even more braced in my lats and back. Mm-hmm. Before that, it was kind of like, all right, I think I'm supposed to brace my back, but like he's telling me to brace my core, and I'm just like up in the mix of all of it. And again, just fully committing to the principles of like internal torsion, external torsion. That's a big one in terms of injury prevention in my eyes is learning how to really truly brace either this side or this side. Because if, say you're in like a front squat or a goblet squat, core exercise. But if you're not taught well, you may think a squat is a back exercise. So you're like, oh, what do I brace again? My core or my back?
Yeah.
And that's when potential injuries happen. So in terms of how do I get myself out of pain? A lot of it goes to David, DJ Murakami at Strong Camps. I'm learning actually one more methodology. One of my coaches is this gym in Point Loma down in San Diego. It's called S10 Fitness. It's owned by a gentleman named Dave Sten and then Chris Daly, who was a mentor of mine, RIP, passed away tragically. And they're teaching me a lot of the modalities of this education called Z Health. You ever heard of Z Health?
Nope.
Look it up, brother. It's a good one. Z Health is all about like the neurology aspect of training. So visual, balance, and Z Health is a great one as well to look into. That's helped me particularly a lot.
How'd you get yourself out of pain?
Yeah, so again, same thing. A lot of David Weck's work was the thing that finally clicked for me. I was very, like I said, I was just muscle bound. I was getting stronger and stronger and stronger, but so stuck in just the typical powerlifting type movements. It took me really far down the road. And when I started, it was really rolling the rope that like opened me up back into it. 'Cause the nice thing about that is if you have a bit of an understanding about the body, like it's like the rope just shows you the correct way to move. Like to get a nice smooth flow, you have to be in those mechanically advantageous positions. And as soon as I started doing that got me moving more, started using like the Bosu ball, the soul steps, those types of things. And once the pain was gone, I finally started moving again. Because when I was in a boatload of pain, I didn't want to keep doing the things that were pushing me further. So like that was like the key that opened the door for me. And yeah, it's wild because it's only been a year, but the difference in my movement quality, my quality of thought, my outlook on the future, all of these things has fundamentally changed. And really, yeah, for me, it started with the rope.
You messed your back up really bad, right? Like with the trampoline thing, right?
Yeah. It was crazy because when I would tell people the story, I'd like get into it like, oh, we were at a trampoline park, and they're like, oh, you like fell on your head or something, right? Nope, just jumped up onto a platform. That was wake up call number 1. And then I was telling Andrew earlier, wake up call number 2 was I broke my ankle walking down our driveway in 2021. And I was watching your podcast where you could not wrap your head around somebody falling off a curb. And I was like, okay, what up? So like here I was, pulling 3 plates, doing these things in the past. And I really hurt myself just trying to go down an icy driveway a little bit too fast. Yeah. And then getting just gentle, nutritive movement in from the rope was like my way of being able to step back into it. And like I said, I'm absolutely going to return to lifting heavy. I'm in that process now. But it just became so clear I had to get the fundamentals down because I was just go since I was young.
I really like this question, and gotta open up to you gents now. Like, Mark, I know you maybe had a couple of injuries. Like, what was a big factor in you getting out of pain?
I had a bunch of injuries. I'm trying to think of like chronic pain. I really have. I've been pretty good at avoiding chronic pain. I have like tightness in certain areas. Like my hip has been tight forever. That's been something that's bugged me. But I've torn my pecs a couple times. I've torn my tricep and my hamstring. But luckily, even when I was powerlifting, I was pretty. From a lifting perspective, was pretty healthy and pretty like just not in a lot of pain. I guess the only thing I can think of is like my elbows and joints would flare up a little bit here and there, but that's not really an issue at the moment. But that's also just because like just to reduce the amount of like pulling and pushing that I do, because the elbow is involved in so many different things in the gym. So just having different inputs I think has been really helpful. And then also like having my mentor be Louis Simmons, it was always that we mixed stuff up quite a bit. And so you would move a lot of different exercises into the mix. And so I don't feel like I really walked around maybe as much pain as a lot of other guys did, especially considering the weights and stuff. And and then just moving on from powerlifting into bodybuilding, to me, bodybuilding, was easier from a standpoint of like less overall like pressure on my body, and just felt better. And then now that I'm a total pussy and basically just running, I feel really good with that. And I'm fortunate that I'm not really running into any injuries. But I think I'm just resilient. I think not like a mental resilience. I mean more so I trained myself to be resilient, and then there's also maybe some good genetic factors in there.
Yeah, you lucky son of a gun. Yeah. Speaking of, what like have you overcame some significant injuries, Nsima, and like was it continually learning from new principles, or what was it that got you out of some significant pain?
Yeah, dude, there's a bunch of shit. I think one of the big things was really strengthening the feet over time.
Amen.
I mean, I played soccer for a lot of years, and when I started doing jiu-jitsu pretty much 8 years ago, I did have like a string of foot injuries that I couldn't necessarily figure out. And it's not until I started being deliberate with like doing things for the feet, strengthening them, that like then I started like learning how to put everything together. It's like my body was like strong, right? But my feet weren't necessarily connected to everything that I did. And when they got stronger, and now it's like, even when I do jujitsu, when I'm using my feet and playing guard, as people call it, people always comment like, if your feet feel like hands, because now like my toes are grabbing at things. My toes are grabbing at their bicep or grabbing at their knees, and that's instinctual. But along with that, since that's all wired together now, just starting to be a little bit less conventional with the way I move over the past few years. Because like with a lifting background, you always think of like, okay, hip crease over, or like a rib cage over hips and brace, and everything is here, and you're moving that same fashion all the time. But like as I started to like start pulling in different ways, start pushing in different ways, start like lifting in really long, potentially dangerous ranges, initially shit felt sketchy, but then my body developed the capacity to almost be strong everywhere. So I can do things with deep flexion, deep extension, and my back and everything feels great, and it doesn't feel like it's going to be at the risk of injury because I've built that capacity. So I think like slowly over time, kind of getting out of the conventional lifting dogma and doing things in that way has, like, now I really don't deal with anything unless like, some stupid shit happens here and there, but then it's minimal.
I think if we get hurt, we usually come in and try to figure out how to fix it. So like if I'll get like a little tweak in my back or something, sometimes I know better. I mean, sometimes, sometimes you hurt yourself and you actually do need a few days to really not mess with the injury at all.
Yeah.
But luckily I haven't had anything like that in a long time. But when I have like something just little, you get like something in your back, you're like, man, what is that? Rather than like avoid it, and like that's what I used to do. I used to just be like, all right, we'll just brace and hold on to everything everywhere you walk, and try not to move too much, and hopefully over a couple of days it will go away. And it usually did, or it would result in me being tighter, and then I had to kind of figure it out later. But nowadays it's like if something happens, if I feel the slightest of anything, I go in and try to have some maintenance on it. Go in and try to mainly round the back. I've been really playing around with trying to straighten my spine. And it's the weirdest thing, because I can kind of look at it in the mirror and I'll straighten my spine. But when I straighten my spine and I like kind of tuck my hips underneath me, then I'm like leaning forward and I'm just like crouched in this weird ass position, but my spine's flat. And I'm like, how do I stand more upright while the back's flat, while the back's straight? But just learning and investigating and digging in on all these things has really been really helpful. And even just that motion right there, I feel like it's allowing my spine to open up and to start to move a lot better along each segment of the spine. Whereas before it's just like one unit and it's just like,
yeah. To stay on this topic real briefly again, posture, and then working the non-dominant side as a rotational athlete. I've probably performed about 5 million reps here, 5 million reps here, and maybe 500 here, 500 here. So thinking about your musculature and just your overall skill level, this is an credit WEC method again for this. Once you you're aware of this non-dominant side and you start to work on that non-dominant side, it's not only balancing you out to prevent injuries, it's potentially making that dominant side a lot better. So addressing my non-dominant side is a big one of these. And then kind of like what Nsima was talking about, much more of the postural stuff, like the way we distribute the weights in the feet, getting out of the heels all day and maybe shifting a little bit more forward to the balls of the feet, hip position. This was my posture until I was 22. I was significantly anteriorly tilted. I thought I was a tough guy, so I kind of like shrugged my shoulders and shit, and I was screwed up, bro. So just until like I learned how to move and how to just live in a different space, I'm caught up in the feet too, because it has a lot of the neurological aspects of this. We teach this to women, we teach this to everyone. But imagine that I'll act like I'm talking to Nsima. Here, with my weight shifted the majority of the heels, like I look a little timid talking to you. I look like I'm not very sure of myself, and if you gave me a scary face, I'm gonna go run the hell away. But
there's some people that come to mind right now as you're standing like that.
But look at this significant change. If I just shift weight in terms of my feet, like how much more intentional do I look talking to you? Much more. And it's a confidence thing. It's actually a fight versus flight thing again. Like if Mark is gonna come kick my ass, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna dip out and run away. But if
now with those feet being that big,
anyway, we'll get a close up on these later. Anyways, I mean, if I wanted to fight back, what am I going to do? I'm going to lean in and be confident that I'm coming after you as well. So it's a lot of the postural stuff. I love the whole postural restoration type work because it's important shit.
Yeah.
And for a woman who's been, the majority of women have a significant anterior tilt. Getting them connected to this side of their body or getting them out of this kyphotic and like learning how to express this other side. It's like the aha moment. And I mean, producing those aha moments day to day in the gym, dude, it's awesome. It truly is.
Chelsea, actually, what have you noticed? Because like you did a lot of powerlifting. Did you ever have foot issues? Did you notice like when you started paying attention to that, if there were any, like there's any improvement, or was that something that you already kind of had down pat?
So I really didn't think about my feet much until I broke my ankle, to be honest with you. Like it just wasn't even on my mind. I was focused on growing the channel and lifting more weights. Like I was not practicing a lot of the things I preach. 'Cause, I would absolutely do my best to make sure anyone who was watching the content I put out was looking out for themselves, but I would get so lost in just the end goal. I didn't pay attention to those little things. It wasn't until that injury, and like, yeah, it was tough. Like, that really laid me up. I expected I would bounce back in like 2 weeks when that happened. Not even a little bit. Yeah, it wasn't until that point. And I love the work you've been doing, even just with like the like 3-inch pipe, just doing little exercises like that. And something that helped me with my feet a lot as I was coming back from that injury was Tim Sheaf put out like a free foot program.
Tim Sheaf.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it helped me so much. Just doing little strengthening exercises, rolling out. Like, I did not realize how tight just the arch of my foot was until I started doing work on that thing. And
Andrew, bring up a video of Tim Sheaf. He's another WEC Method disciple, and his background. I mean, call it like it is. His actual background is parkour. So this guy's jumping off of buildings like unbelievable. But then he found WEC Method, he found rope flow, and he's actually doing a lot of work now with plyometric balls.
It's funny. I've been getting into doing like stability ball stuff, and I see like this guy is doing that same shit. I started doing it because I saw it from Paul Check.
That's where David got hit. That's where David got his inspiration, is from Paul Check. Yeah.
Awesome.
And yeah, Tim Sheaf is a great guy. He's a great coach. He's putting out some great educational content. Shout out to Tim.
Wow.
Where can people find you guys?
So people can find. Go ahead, Chelsea. Go ahead.
hey, I mean, if you can find me online, if I'm going to be online right now, it's pretty much my Instagram, Chelsea Lifts still. And doing stuff for Built Well for Birth is the other place you're really going to find me right now. So still laying low, still doing the work on the
She's
deal
like Batman.
right now.
She's like Batman. She only comes
like
out.
being a little bit of an enigma right now.
Yeah, and then you can find me. You can find me on Instagram, amartinez1320, and then definitely check out the Built Well for Birth page. That's where we host all of our pregnancy, fitness, and health content. LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, where the hell you can find us, TikTok, whatever.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.
If you guys enjoyed this episode with Chelsea and Andrew, click this one right here. Okay, we talked to a bunch of professionals about how to get out of pain. Got a little bit of shoulder pain, got a wee-wee in your lower back, got a little knee niggle. Click this episode right here.
In your back.
Yeah, man. Shit, that can be painful. And this episode right here will help you understand how to get out of pain.
Super concerning.